Okay, so in this session, we're going to dive into assignment 2, lab assignment 2, which is on more advanced Excel capabilities. What I've done, lab assignment 2 will have 12 questions. What I've done is I'm going to go through a set of 12 demo questions, which are kind of like the 12 questions you'll see in the lab, but there are obviously some differences. I want you to, do the questions yourself. So, for example, here I'm asking for performance rating of workers in the marketing department. I may change that department to something else in the actual lab that you would be doing. So the numbers and the conditions and all of that could indeed be different. Okay, the first thing we're going to learn in this area of more advanced capabilities of Excel is, so far in assignment 1, we were querying exactly one table. So, but now what we're going to do is we're going to see how to query from multiple tables. So I've introduced now another table. So here are the employees of the firm. We have classified them into workers and supervisors. So each worker is assigned a supervisor, and at the end of the year, the supervisor will give the worker a performance rating based on which they'll get a salary increase. So now we have a performance review table. That's another table that we're adding to this data set. And here, what we have is this first SSN column stands for the workers SSN. And so here is the supervisor's SSN, the person who's going to be supervising that worker. And at the end of the year, they give that person, that worker, a performance rating. Could be 1, 2, 3, 4. And based on that, they get a salary increase. And just to keep the data simple here, this will be happening for year after year after year. So I've just put the data for the year 2012. Let's assume that's our current year. Okay, so now let's go to the first question. And it says here, get the name, department, salary, performance rating of all workers in the marketing department. So I can get the name, department, salary. Yes, this is from the employee table. So that's going to be the main table from where I get most of information. But then the performance rating is not in this table. So I have to look it up from the performance review table. And we do that by using what's known as the index and match function. And we'll see the use of that in a second. So let's do this problem. So let's first make a copy. So this will be our question number 1. At least this is the demo assignments and the demo questions. And then, of course, you have slightly different questions in the actual lab. Question number 1. Okay. First, apply all the filters and reduce the set to exactly the people you want. See here it says workers and in the marketing department. So the first thing you're going to do is, well, apply the filters. So click somewhere there, go to data, go to filter, and then from here you can make sure only workers is chosen. So that reduces the set to workers. Now further on, you have to choose marketing. So deselect this and choose marketing. And so now you have the set of people that you are interested in. Okay, now remove the hidden rows. There's no point keeping hidden rows at this point. That's just going to confound the calculations. So remove the hidden rows. You can say no here. And inspect. And do a remove all. And then you can close. Okay, so now you've reduced things to exactly the people that you want. Now you want their performance rating. So there's going to be, so you want to create an additional column. This is the performance rating. And now here's where you're going to use that index match formula. So it begins like this, equal to index. So now you're going to give the first argument. The first argument is we're looking for a performance rating. Which column in the lookup table will we find performance rating? That's what that first argument is. So you go to the lookup table, the column in which you'll find the performance rating for whichever worker we're interested in is this column right there. So that's the first argument to the index function. The column in the lookup table where you will find the information that you're seeking. You're seeking information about a performance rating. Which column in the lookup table will the performance rating be? So that's what that first argument is. The second argument of the index function is actually the match function. So match, and now you're going to, now you're going to put in the arguments for the match function. The first argument is, who is it you're trying to look up? You know, which worker is it that you're trying to look up? So go back to the main table. The worker that we're trying to look up is this worker right here. Right now we are focusing on so you're entering the formula in the first row, which means, well, we're focusing on this worker. The SSN identifies that worker. So that's the worker we're focusing on. The second argument of the match function is, so comma, and now you're going to type the second argument. The second argument is, where are you going to find a match for this value? So in which column in the lookup table are you going to find a match for this value that you're trying to look up? So go to the lookup table. The column in which you'll find a match for that value is this SSN column here. And then the third argument, so comma, and the third argument is 0 for an exact match. You could have gone for an approximate match, but that's a different context here. That's not relevant here. We're going for an exact match. Okay, so now you see that this number appears. So that's the performance rating that Beth Simpson got. And you can check up to make sure. So Beth Simpson's SSN is 235787833. So let's look up the performance review. So 23578 is this row there, and as you can see, she got the performance rating of 4. So we found the right performance rating. Now we're going to copy this formula to all the other rows, and the quickest way of doing that is, you see this double rectangle. You see that rectangle there? Just double click on this, and you'll get the performance rating for the other workers. Notice one thing: you get an NA. This is not an error in how we did the Excel steps. This is an error in the fact that this person, Alex Brown, has not yet been given a performance rating. So maybe something happened. Maybe his supervisor left the company and did not complete a performance rating for him, for Alex Brown, and that's how he was not given a performance rating. So that's a problem in the business processes, if you will. So that's a different problem that has to be corrected. But here, this thing simply indicates that this SSN for Alex Brown that we're trying to look up the match for that. In the lookup table, we couldn't find a match because Alex Brown doesn't have. If you go in the performance review table, that SSN 69638, that actually does not exist in the performance review table, which simply means that something went wrong. This person has not yet been given a performance rating. Okay. Now coming back to the question. So then you finally give them exactly what is asked for in the question, and don't have the extraneous columns. First, you must replace those by their values. So copy and then do a paste 1, 2, 3. That replaces the formulas in those cells by their values. You can simply remove this erroneous that erroneous record. That's just for the point, for making note of the fact that, hey, we have to give Alex Brown a performance rating. But here, here it's just going to it's just going to create problems if you keep a record with an erroneous number in it. Okay, because we may want to process this further, and that's why I removed that. And then simply make sure you're giving the person just what they're required. They're not looking for SSN. You can delete that column. Name, department, salary, performance rating. So they're not looking for this either, the address and the date joined. And we know this is for the workers. So this is what they were looking for in that first question. Okay. Now let's get to the next question. Get the average performance rating of all workers who are either in the marketing department or the accounting department and joined the firm after 2005. Okay. So what we'll do is, again, we'll make a copy of this employee T. And this is going to be our question 2. Okay. Now, so let's do all the filtering. The department, so we were interested in workers. So filter. So we have now kept only the workers, and they're also interested in either marketing or accounting. So so department, deselect this and select accounting and marketing. So we have now reduced it to workers in marketing or accounting, and then also who joined the firm after the year 2005. So we got to have another filter here for joined and date filters after. So after the year 2005, which means 12/31/2005, this makes it after the year 2005. Okay, so now we have the right set of workers that we're interested in. Do the elimination of the hidden rows. So file, info, inspect the workbook, inspect the document, inspect this, do a removal, close. Okay, so now we have the people that we're interested in. Now they want the performance rating, the average performance rating of these people. Well, performance rating, again, is not in the employee table, the main table. So therefore, we have to look it up from the lookup table, which is performance review. So we have to increase this performance rating. Again, let's apply that index match once again so you get a feel for it. So the formula is equals index. That's the first function. The argument, the first argument of the index function is the column in the lookup table where you will get the value you are looking for. So we're looking for performance rating. So which is the lookup table has performance review. So which is the column in the lookup table where you will be able to find the performance rating of this worker? Well, it's column B right here. Now, comma. So now you're giving the second argument of the index function. The second argument of the index function is the match function. So match. What is the first argument of the match function? The first argument is who is it you're trying to look up? So you go back to your main table. In this case, it's this Q2 table. Who is it we're trying to look up? Well, in this row, in the first row, the person we're trying to look up, the worker that we're trying to look up is that worker, identified by the SSN. Now, in the lookup table, where will you get a match for this value? Where will you get a match for that value of SSN? So if you go back to the lookup table, well, a match for that value will be there in the A column. So that's the second argument. The third argument of the match function is a 0, which indicates we're doing an exact match. Close the parenthesis for the match function, close the parenthesis for the index function. That's how you enter that index match. And then simply double click on this small rectangle and the formula will get copied to everywhere else. Okay, and now you can eliminate this person because they don't have a, they don't have a valid, okay. And joined the firm after 2005. So we have applied everything. And we have some people in accounting, one person in marketing. And now they're simply asking for the average performance rating of all these people. So this is a simple formula. So just label it as average performance rating. Average performance rating, and you have to simply average these numbers there. So this is average, and simply average these numbers. That's the result for the second question. Now let's go to the third question, question number 3. Okay, so copy this data table again. Okay, I'll come to question 3. And so we have some questions that are based on the employee data set. We're actually also introducing a second data set, which is the student and courses data set. And there are some questions from the student and courses data set. What I want to do is I'm going to address those questions later. So let me actually remove that question from here. So I'll address that later. So let's first do the questions on the employee data set, and then we'll do the ones on the other ones. Okay. So next question: get the supervisor name, department, and average performance rating given by that supervisor to their workers. For all supervisors in the accounting department. Okay. So here, it's actually best to start from. It's actually yeah. So here it's actually best to start from, because the information about the supervisors and the ratings they gave is actually in the performance review table. So sometimes you may actually want to start from the performance review table. In fact, rather than, so let me actually change my Q3. In this case, it is actually best to start from the performance review table, because that's where the performance ratings are. So I'm actually going to make the performance review table my main table, and I'll make the employee table my lookup table in this case, just to give you a variety of how these things can be, made to do different, made to work in different ways. So that's why we'll actually see an example here where we are actually making the performance review table our main table. Okay. So now if we look at what they want here, get the supervisor's name. So this is kind of like our main table, and we're trying to find the supervisor's name now. The supervisor name. So we have the social security number of the supervisor. we can find what the name of the supervisor is by looking that up in the employee table, which is kind of now our lookup table. So how will we do that? So now we're actually trying to go from the performance review table and look up other information from the employee table, which is our lookup table. So again, we'll use the index match function. So index. We're trying to now look up the name of the supervisor, and our lookup table is the employee table. So the first argument is which is the column in the lookup table. Now in this case, it's the employee table. So the first argument is which is the column in the lookup table that that has the information that we're looking for. We're looking for a name. The name is there in this column in the lookup table. Now you type in the match function. So, match. The second argument of the index function is actually the match function itself. So that's why after this comma, now that we're typing in the second argument of the index function, that's the match function. The first argument of the match function is who is it that we're trying to look up. So if we go to our main table, now it's the Q3 table, we are trying to look up this supervisor. This is the person that we're trying to look up. We're trying to find their name. So that's the person that we're trying to look up. And the second argument of the match function is where are we going to find a match? Where are we going to find a match for that SSN? In other words, in which column in the lookup table are we going to find a match for that SSN? So the lookup table is now the employee table. The column in which we're going to find a match is this column right there. That's the column. That's the name column. We're going to find a match. Excuse me, I actually misspoke. We're going to find a match in the SSN column. So we're trying to find a match for that lookup value. So the lookup value was, if we go back to the main table, the lookup value is this value, the supervisor's SSN, and we are trying, and the column in which we'll find the match. So that was the lookup value. Now the second argument of the match function is the column in the lookup table where this value we will find. So this value of SSN will be found in the SSN column of the lookup table. And then it's the 0, and then you close this one parenthesis, close the match, second parenthesis closes the index, and that's the answer you get, and then click and copy there. So we have filled in the supervisor names. Let me do that again because there was a little glitch when I did it the first time. So let me actually show you the formula again in a clear fashion right from the start. So what we're doing here is we have to find, for these supervisor SSNs, we have to find what the supervisor names are. So so our main table right now is this basically the copy of the performance review table. That's our main table. And our lookup table is the employee table because the name for the supervisor is going to be in the employee table. So to use the index match function, so index first argument is in which column in the lookup table will we find the value that we're looking for. We're looking for a name. So the column in which we'll find what we're looking for in the lookup table, in this case the lookup table is the employee table, is this column. Okay. Now the second argument is the match function. The first argument of the match function is who is it that we're trying to look up? Well, if you go back to the main table, the person that we're trying to look up is this person, identified by this supervisor SSN. So this is the person that we're trying to look up. It's their name that we're trying to find. The second argument of the match function, so the arguments to a function are separated by commas. So after the first argument, you're going to hit a comma, and then you enter the second argument of the match function. The second argument is, where are you going to find a match for this value? Where will you find a copy of that value in the lookup table? Which column are you going to find a copy of that value in the lookup table? So if you go to the lookup table, which is the employee table now, you will find a match. You'll find that value in the SSN column. You'll find a match for that value in the main table, that SSN value in the main table. You'll find a match for that in the SSN column of the lookup table. And then the third argument is 0 to say that we want an exact match, and then close parenthesis for the match, close parenthesis for the index function. And that's how you get the supervisor name. Okay. Now, simply copy this over to all the other cells. And that's how you will get those values. Now they also want the department. Of course, the worker and the supervisor supervising that worker belong to the same department. So you can find the supervisor's department. And again, we're going to do the index match functions to find the department. So we got the supervisor's name, then we get the department. So again, use this index match function. So index. So index, and then find the, okay, so now we're trying to find the department. So the first argument of the index function is the column in the lookup table. The lookup table is now the employee table. Is the column in the lookup table where you will find the value of department. So basically, the lookup table is here. The department, now you're looking for, let's move this out of the way. Now you're looking for department. So that's the first argument of the index function, which is in which column will you find the value that you're looking for? We're looking for a department. In this case, the department of a particular supervisor. Who's that particular supervisor? We'll specify in a second. But where is the department going to be in the lookup table? Well, it's going to be in the department column. Now, comma, and match. Okay. The first argument to the match function is who is it that you're looking up? Who's the supervisor that you're looking up? So come back to the main table. The supervisor that we're trying to look up is this supervisor. Since we're focusing on the first row right now, we'll copy that formula to the other rows, but right now the focus is on the first row. So that's the supervisor. And then the second argument is, where are you going to find a match for that value, for that supervisor's SSN? In which column will you find a match for that supervisor SSN? So if you go back to the employee table, which is the lookup table, well, that match you will find in the SSN column of the supervisor of the employee table. And then the third argument is the 0, indicating we want an exact match. And close this and close that. And so the department is the MIS department. And then we get all the departments for the various supervisors. Okay, now what are they asking for? And the average performance rating given by that supervisor to their workers. Okay, and there was another condition here that you are interested in only the supervisors in the accounting department. So there's one further condition here. You're interested in only the supervisors who are in the accounting department. Okay, now before processing things further, you don't really want to keep those formulas around either. So essentially, you want to replace the formulas by their values, and then you can continue the processing. And that's simply done. We can just do a copy. The reason why you don't want the formulas is that, at the end we may eliminate that supervisor SSN column, and then you'll get all reference errors because there are formulas in these cells that are referencing the values in the supervisor column. So that's why you want to get rid of the formula, so that later on, if you were to eliminate that supervisor SSN column, you won't get reference errors. That's why we're doing that. So copy that and do a paste 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, they're saying in the problem that we are also interested in only the supervisors in the accounting department. Okay, so let's do that. Let's filter out all the other departments, and then we will be looking at only the supervisors in the accounting department. Okay, then essentially they want what is the average performance rating that the supervisors gave. So we're going to find, well, there are a few records for Bill Cranfield. We'll find the average performance rating for what Bill Cranfield gave, and then we also have Sam Renier. In this case, he has one record only, so that single record is also the average. Okay, so now let's further reduce the table to exactly the records that we need. So we want to get rid of these hidden records. Okay, so we do remove all. Okay. And now you can do some further reduction of the table, because ultimately, we're not looking for any of these columns. So you can do, we need the performance rating column because they want to find average performance ratings, but we don't need any of these columns. Okay, and now we're going to do some subtotaling, and the subtotaling is going to be done on the performance rating, which means that we have to actually shift the performance rating column right to the end, and then we can simply remove this. Okay, so, and now we'll do a sort by name. So we group the records for each supervisor. They are in accounting. So Bill Cranfield has given these ratings. Sam Grenier seems to have only one direct report, then that's the rating. And now it's a matter of finding the averages, and that's what you do through the subtotal. So for the subtotal function, we have the records. We reduce them to exactly the set we want. There's no further filtering we need to keep there. You can clear those filters. Then you do the subtotal. At each change in supervisor name is correct, because we want to find the average, for each group of records with the same supervisor name. So at each change in the supervisor name, use the function average. And then you'll apply that to the performance rating. And that's it. So you have Bill Cranfield's average performance rating that he gave to his workers is 2.75, as you can see there. Sam Renier's average is 4. And these are the supervisors in the accounting department. You could toggle the view level to this. And if you want to keep the view level there, then you should also remove the hidden rows. So if you want to keep the view level at that level, then do a final hidden row removal. So you can go here, info, inspect document, inspect, and you can remove the hidden rows. And so this, oh, sorry, I forgot to, if you're going to, before you do any hidden row removal, you have to make sure that you have replaced the formulas by their values. That's why I say make sure that after you've used the formula, make sure you've actually replaced it by the values, because otherwise, for further processing, that may get you into trouble. So in fact, if I were to do this question again, so that I don't end up with this, let me just quickly do this question again. Let's delete this. Okay, so we are going to find the average performance rating given by supervisors to their workers, where the department of focus is accounting. We're going to begin in this case from the main table would be the supervisor table, because the information about the performance ratings, and we want to do some averaging of that. That is in the supervisor. That's in the performance review table. So that's why we want to begin from there as our main table. So make a copy of this. This is going to be our question 3. So that's our question 3. And so they need things like the supervisor name. So the supervisor name will come from the employee table. So that's what our lookup table is now. So supervisor name. And how do we use the index match function? We're trying to look up the name from the lookup table, which is now the employee table. The way the index match function is used is first argument to the index function is the column in the lookup table where you will find the value you're looking for. Now we're looking for a name. So with the employee table being a lookup table, the name is in this column, the B column. That's where we'll find the value of, that's where we'll find the value we're looking for. We're looking for a name, so that is going to exist in the name column in the lookup table. The second argument of the match function, the second argument of the index function is the match function. So in the match function, the first argument to that is who is it that we're trying to look up? So if you go back to the main table, the person whose name we're trying to look up is identified by the SSN. So this is the person we're trying to look up. The second argument of the match function is in the lookup table. In the lookup table, where are we going to find a match for this value? Where are we going to find a match for this value, this 890667855? The place we're going to find, so now if you go back to the lookup table, which is the employee table, the place we'll find a match for that value, 89670, whatever that was, that's going to be in the SSN column here. So that's where we'll find a match for that value. Then comma, then 0, and close this match function, close the index function, and then you'll get the value for the name that you're looking at. And double click on the small rectangle there, and that copies this formula all through. Okay. Now that we're done with this, now that you have found the values, you can simply you can simply copy and replace the formulas by the values. So do a copy and then do a paste 1, 2, 3. This will replace the formulas by their values. Otherwise, what will happen is if in our final stage of processing, let's say we deleted the column supervisor SSN, then you'll get all those reference errors. So that's why once you have used the formulas to find the values that you want, just replace the formulas by the values, which means do a copy and then do a paste 1, 2, 3. The second thing that the problem asks for is also the department. So the department okay, so again, another example of the use of the index match function. So index, and where will we find the value for department? The lookup table is the employee table now. We will find the value of department in this column for whichever supervisor that we're looking up. Okay, now the second argument is the match. The first argument of the match function is who is it that we're trying to look up? Well, for the first row, we're trying to look up this person. Trying to look up that person's department. That's the person that we're trying to look up. And then where are we going to find a match for this value? Where are we going to find this 890667855? If you go back to the employee table, the column where you'll find a match for that is this column. This is a column where you'll find a match for that value. And then comma, and then 0, which indicates you want an exact match. Close this, close the index. Well, if obviously we didn't do something right, otherwise we would get a proper value, which we did not. So let's do this once again. And you will also find, errors of that nature where you didn't get the right value. Then simply do it once again. So, okay, so now we are trying to find the department that the supervisor is in. Of course, the workers who report to that supervisor are also in the same department as that supervisor. Okay, so we're trying to find the department. So index, our lookup table is now the employee table. And which is the column for department? That's the column in the lookup table which supplies the department. So the column is this column right here, department. Okay. Then the next argument is match. The first argument of the match function is who's the person? What's the entity that you're trying to look up? Well, if you go back to the main table, which is Q3, the person that we're trying to look up is identified by this SSN, that person's SSN. Now, if you go back to the lookup table, which is the column in the lookup table where you'll find a match for this value, 890667855. So if you go back to the lookup table, which is now employee, the column in which you'll find a match for this is this SSN column. That's where you'll find a match. And then the third argument is 0, indicating that you want an exact match. Then close the parenthesis for the match function, close the parenthesis for the index function. That's how you'll type in that formula. And let's see if it worked this time or not. It did work. It worked this time. So you got the department MIS that Bob Thornton is in. So now click on this and you'll get all the departments for these supervisors. Now it further says that you are interested in only supervisors that are in the accounting department. So we'll further have to do some further filtering to bring it to that set of people. So first replace these formulas. Once you have the formulas, you don't need them. Now you only need the values. So you can replace them by do a copy and do a paste. 1, 2, 3, and you have replaced the formulas by their values. Okay. Now let's do some further processing. They want to focus on just the people in the accounting department. So we click on filter, and then it's only the accounting department that we want to focus on. So click on accounting, and then you have the right set of records. There's further processing to be done, but you have the right set of records now. Anytime you generate hidden rows, just get rid of the hidden rows, because you don't need those rows are not the records you're interested in. So do an inspect workbook. Save the file now, no. And inspect. And then come down to the rows, remove the rows. Close this. So the rows have been removed. Now we're going to do grouping and find the average performance ratings. Okay, so at this point, the information we really need is the supervisor and the department, yes, because that's what they asked for in the results. Get the supervisor name, department, and then average performance rating. So the only rows that we need, the only columns that we need are supervisor name, department, and performance rating. So you can get rid of this one. You can get rid of these as well. And now we're going to do some sorting. So we're going to sort by and at this point you can clear the filters, clear all the filters, sort by supervisor name. So we form, we're grouping the records by supervisor, because we want to find the average of the performance ratings given by these different supervisors. So now we're ready to do some subtotaling. You want to move the column in which you're going to be doing the arithmetic operations to the end, and you can get rid of this. You have the things sorted in the right fashion. Now you can do the subtotaling. And at each change in supervisor name, use the function average and add the subtotal to, not supervisor name, but add the subtotal to, where is the, oh, I see. The one was, so I didn't actually click, you have to click to select the entire, select the entire, the data set. So my cursor should have been here. Anywhere in the data set. So you can put it anywhere in the data set, but it should have been in the data set. And then we're doing the subtotaling. So you'll see that the entire data set has been checked off. That's why I was getting a problem here. I wasn't seeing all the different variables. So at each change in supervisor name, that is correct. You want to use the function average, and then you want to add the subtotal to performance rating, which is what is going to give you the average performance rating. And so when you do that, you'll see the average performance rating that Bill Cranfield gave to his workers was 2.75. Sam Renier, since he had only one record, well, that is 4. And if you want to now sort of toggle the view level so that you hide the details, since they asked for only what the averages were, they didn't ask to see what were the, at view level 3, at the lower view level, you're also seeing, so Bill Cranfield had 4 direct reports and he gave these individual ratings. But the problem doesn't ask for that. So therefore, you should actually toggle the view level so that it's at the view level that the problem asks for. And so these are the two supervisors in accounting, and these are their ratings. Now, if you want to remove the hidden rows, the first thing you want to do is you want to take out any formulas here. Otherwise, you get that reference error that we got last time. So do a copy, do a paste, 1, 2, 3. And now you have removed the formulas. And now you can proceed to remove the hidden rows. And so you will see here the ratings, and the grand average they didn't ask for, so you can remove that as well. And this will be your final answer. So what you have is the performance ratings that the average performance ratings that these two supervisors in the accounting department gave to the workers reporting to them. Okay. So we have seen in the first three problems, we have seen the capability for bringing in information from a number of different tables. And we did that by using the index match function. Now we're going to see another important and powerful capability of Excel, which is pattern matching. In other words, processing textual data. So the first thing we want to do, which is round number 4, is we want to get the name, state in which they reside, department, and salary. So we want to find the state in which they reside. So here, from this address information, we want to extract just this. We want to extract the state. We want to so essentially for this person, the state is MA. So we want to create a column for state. So let's start working on this problem. So this is problem number 4. It's problem number 4. So move or copy. So this is problem number 4, so rename it. Now what we want to do is we want to introduce another column. We want to introduce another column called state. Because we want to do some processing, like find the average salary of employees in that state. So, but we don't have state as a column. So what we want to do is we want to process the text field to find the state. The way that is done is, so if a person isn't in the state of Massachusetts, we're trying to search the address field to see if this pattern, comma, space, MA, space occurs in the address field. If that occurs, then we know that person is from the state of Massachusetts. If the pattern comma space NH space occurs in the address field, then we know that that person is from the state of New Hampshire. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to search for these patterns. So we do that by using the search function. So how does the search function work? This is the search function. The search function has an argument, which is the first argument is what is the pattern that we're looking for, and the second argument is, well, which is the what is the field in which you're looking for that pattern. So if we're looking for people who belong to the state of Massachusetts, then essentially we're looking for this pattern. The pattern is enclosed in double quotes, but the pattern we're looking for is comma, space, MA space, and close that within double quotes. So we're looking for this pattern. And if we find this pattern, and we're looking for the pattern in the field, in this field. So this is the field in which we are looking for that pattern. That's the textual information in which we're looking for that pattern. And if we find that pattern, what will happen is it'll give you the number. It'll give you the position, meaning what does the pattern start from the 8th character? Does it start from the 20th character? So it'll give you the position, the starting position of that pattern. So if we hit this here, this number 27 means that pattern was found. The pattern that we're looking for, it was found. And it starts at character number 27. So if we take this and then we copy this all through the other fields, all through the other rows. So the pattern was found here because this person is also in Massachusetts. That pattern was not found there because that person is in New Hampshire. And then the pattern was found in these rows as well. And these other values indicate that the pattern was not found in those other rows. So these search function is actually typically also used with another function called isNumber. So it's typically also used with another function called isNumber. In other words, what we're saying is if what the search function returned was a number, then we know that pattern occurred. If this was not a number, then we know that pattern did not occur. So now we can wrap this in an if statement. So the if statement. So the if statement is if this is true, which means that the pattern did occur because we got a number, then we know that the state is Massachusetts, and so we can insert MA into that cell. If that pattern did not occur, well, then we know it's not a state of Massachusetts, and for now, we will call whatever the other state can be as simply other state. So we can call this as simply other state. And what's the okay, so yes. Okay, so essentially, if that pattern occurred, which means we get a proper number, then we know that this address is in the state of Massachusetts. If that pattern did not occur, then it's in some other state. So if we were to copy that formula, then what we have done is we have found, so for example, this person resides in the state of Massachusetts, therefore the state is MA. This person doesn't reside in the state of Massachusetts, they reside in New Hampshire. And so that's how, we didn't find that pattern that we're looking for. And that's why this is other state. And you will see that the other states, New Hampshire and Rhode Island, have been correctly found. And of course, the states of Massachusetts have been correctly found as well. Now, in this data set, of employees in this firm, the employees belong to only 3 states, and you can use that information. The 3 states are New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. So what we have to do is, instead of saying this other state, well, let's actually find the other 2 patterns. So, and then what we're going to do is this whole if statement is going to be copied and inserted here, which will then allow us to find the other patterns. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this whole if statement and we're going to insert that if statement here to find the other patterns. So now, if we're looking for the people who are belonging to the state of New Hampshire, which means we're going to replace that MA by NH. If this pattern occurs, if NH occurs, then the state is New Hampshire. If that NH pattern does not occur, then we know that the only remaining state is Rhode Island. There are only those three states in this data set. So this essentially will find for us. So we are replacing, and we're going to copy that formula to all the other cells. And you can, of course, reduce the spacing here a little bit. I was just doing it to, illustrate what I was doing, but you can certainly, there's no need to have such huge gaps in the formula there. Okay, so that's the formula that we have typed in. Now let's see if it correctly finds the other states. So let's see now. So yes, the first two, these two are in Massachusetts. That's been correctly found. The next is in New Hampshire, correctly found. Next, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, correctly found. New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and so on. So essentially, through this pattern matching business, we have actually been able to extract this information that we needed. We don't want to, we want to find things like the average salary by state. We can't find that by working with address directly. We have to extract the state from the address. And that's essentially what we did. So that's essentially what we did. And we will show, as we do other examples, we will show this formula again, so that you see it in other examples as well. Okay. So now we have that. Now that we have surfaced the states using that formula, simply replace the formula by the values, because we'll be deleting address, and then you'll get all reference errors if you had not replaced the formula by their values. So do a copy here, then do a paste 1, 2, 3. Okay, now you replace the formulas by their values. All right. Now, what was it asking for? Get the name, state in which they reside, department, salary of all employees. So now simply give them what they asked for. They didn't ask for the address. They didn't ask for the SSN. Delete that. They didn't ask for the address, so delete that. Now, you don't get the reference errors. If I had left the formulas here, as opposed to replacing the formulas by their values, I would have gotten all kinds of reference errors. Okay. Then they want the name, state, department, salary. So name, state, department, salary, and you can get rid of these other two. So that's your problem number 4. And what we did here was we did pattern matching. This is going to be an important capability as you go to big data, because in big data you can have large amounts of text, also known as character large objects, and you may need to search in those character large objects, which is basically a whole bunch of text, for various types of information. You could be searching for product requirement. So it's all done through these types of text processing capabilities. And one of the important ones that we just saw, there are others, but the important ones we just saw is the string processing, the search function. Okay, that's number 4. So now number 5, get the average salaries of employees broken down by state. Average salaries broken down by state. So here, okay, so let's go to, so I'm going to now work on problem 5. Let's make a copy of that. Okay, so first we have to find the state again. So basically this will give me a chance to show you those search formulas once again. So this is state. Okay, so the first thing is that so if I were to sort of begin, incrementally, let's build it up. So the first thing what we're doing is, well, we are seeing that if the pattern, comma space MA space, if this pattern occurs in the address field, so then we know that the state is Massachusetts. And it's good to build it incrementally, because otherwise, if you've written out that whole long formula and you made some mistake somewhere, it's hard to pinpoint that mistake. So the first thing is, if I have found this, and the field that I'm looking for, the cell that I'm looking for is this one. So if I found that pattern in this cell, in other words, if this is a number, which means I found that pattern in that cell. So if this is a number, then we know that the state should be Massachusetts. So now we're using the conditional. So if this is true, if this is a number, then we know that the state is Massachusetts. Otherwise, it's some other state. So let's see if this worked or not. So we are going step by step instead of writing the whole thing, just to make sure that we're not making errors. So this thing basically did find correctly the people who are in Massachusetts and the people who are in the other states. Now we want to find people who are in New Hampshire. And we know that if it's not Massachusetts and it's not New Hampshire, then we can assume it's Rhode Island. So we can assume here that the companies is based in it's in the New England area, it's in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to find, instead of saying other state, we want to find, well, what are the other alternatives? And so what we want to do is we want to put in this third argument for the if function. We want to copy this entire if function. We want to copy this entire if function and bring this into this third argument place, that entire if function. Now, what are we looking for? Well, if it's not Massachusetts, then let's check for if it is New Hampshire. Not Massachusetts, we're checking for if it's New Hampshire. And if we find New Hampshire, then of course this should be New Hampshire. If it is not Massachusetts and it's not New Hampshire, then the only other possibility can be that it is in Rhode Island. So that's basically how that formula should be written. And then you can Click on that and you will see that it correctly finds, that formula correctly finds the proper states. Okay. Now, finally, they want the average salaries of employees broken down by state. Average salaries of employees broken down by state. All right, the first thing we want to do is replace the formulas by their values. We don't need the formula anymore. We simply need the values for further processing. Okay. And now we simply need to find average salary. So we don't need anything else except the states and the salary columns. And then we can do the subtotaling to find the average salaries by state. So just delete all these. We don't need department either. Yeah, I don't need the department, so delete that. State, and we don't need positions or date joins or anything. Okay, now we are ready to do the sorting and the grouping. So sorting is the sort function here. You want to sort by state, so you find the groups. So you find the groups. So this is the group for Massachusetts, the group for New Hampshire, group for Rhode Island. And now you simply want to do the subtotaling. So you go to data and subtotal. And at each change in state, use the function average. You want to find the average salaries and add the subtotal to salary. And this basically gives you your Massachusetts average, New Hampshire, and the other, the last state, Rhode Island. You can, since they don't want the details, so this is extraneous information. They don't want the individual salaries, they want the averages. So essentially you can toggle the view level to bring it to the desired view level. And now you can get into the hidden rows, but before you do that, you should make sure that you have copied these. Again, you want to remove the formulas there, so replace them by their values. And now you can do the hidden row removal. Inspect. Do remove all. Close it. Go back here. Those rows have been removed. They've not asked you for the grand average either, so why give extraneous information? You can remove that. Finally, when you're doing salaries, people don't really want to see decimal points. So you can simply reduce the decimal points and make them all integers. So that's your problem number 5. Number 6, get the average salaries broken down by state and by position. So here, this is the average salary when you consider all employees. Both workers and supervisors are sort of mixed into the average. So here, when you say the Massachusetts average is this, that means that the Massachusetts average, including both supervisors and workers, is that. This is the New Hampshire average, and that's the Rhode Island average. Now they want, in question number 6, they want the averages broken down by state and position. And they want to, so you want the average of supervisors in Massachusetts, workers in Massachusetts, supervisors in New Hampshire, workers in New Hampshire, and then supervisors in Rhode Island and workers in Rhode Island. And they also want to restrict the focus to only those employees who joined after the year 2000. So let's see how this is done. Basically, we need to do, 2 subtotals and that kind of thing. So let's see how that is done. Okay, so question number 6. Copy this. Okay, again, we need the state. So the state, so the formula, so we said that, if you do get a number, if is number, search for the pattern search for this pattern in this field. If you do get a number there, which means you have found somebody who is in Massachusetts, so simply put Massachusetts there. And we'll have to put something else, and then this closes an if statement. Now in this place here, we are actually going to use this if statement again. So copy that if statement. This here again. Change this to New Hampshire. And then you have found somebody in New Hampshire, so change that to an H. And the third argument, the only other possibility could be Rhode Island. So that's, looks like I made a typo there. It probably fixed the, let's see here. Yeah, it probably just fixed one of the parentheses. It's easy to make errors. Main thing is then check, check if you did get the right things. So yes, you did get the right New Hampshire, everything is fine. So you did get the right results. Okay. So now replace this by the values. And at the end of the day, you want the states, you want the salaries broken down by state and position. So state position also you want, and who joined the year after, who joined after the year 2000. So, so we need to apply a filter here, which is to get the people who joined after the year 2000. All right. So let's do that. So filter. Date join after the year 2000. So date filter. After the year 2000, be 12/31, 2000. Okay. Now let's get rid of the hidden rows. We don't need that. Okay, so now we have the right set of rows. Now let's get rid of the columns that we don't need. None of these columns would be used. We need only state. State, do we need departments? Broken down by state and position, we don't need department either. So remove all these columns. State, you don't need department either. You need state and position. You don't need the date joined. And the column in which you'll be doing the arithmetic operations is salary. So you want to move that column where you'll be doing the arithmetic operations to the end. And you can get rid of this. Now you can start doing the sorting. So we're going to sort by first state, and then within that, we're going to sort by position. So click on sort. So we're going to sort twice here. So the first sort is by state. So breaking it down by state and position, the first sort is by state. Then you're going to do a click add level here, which we hadn't done previously, because now you're going to sort it by position as well. So now you see that you found all the records for the state of Massachusetts. You have supervisors, you have workers. Then for the New Hampshire, you have supervisors and workers. You have supervisors and workers for Rhode Island. In some cases, there may be only one supervisor, in which case that averaging is, well, just that person's. Okay. So now we're in a position to do our subtotaling. So we'll go to subtotal. We'll first subtotal by the state. So it'll be at each change in state. And we use the average and to salary. But what this gives you, this isn't it's a step to the right result. It's not the final result, because they're asking a further breakdown. So they're asking the breakdown, by state, then position. You don't see that further breakdown here. So therefore, what you're going to have to do is actually do the subtotaling once again. So once you have done this, then you are going to do the subtotaling once again. So subtotal, and now you're going to say at each change in position. At each change in position, use the function average and use the function average. And you can actually uncheck this replace the current subtotals. So that you can keep the subtotal for averaging by state. So you can keep that information. So now you click on this, and now what you'll find is you have this Massachusetts average has been further broken down into the average salary for the supervisors in Massachusetts and the average salary of the workers in Massachusetts. So in Massachusetts, the supervisors, their average salary comes to $125,000. There are 2 supervisors in Massachusetts, and as you can see here, their average is $125,000. There are 4 workers in Massachusetts, and their worker average is this. And then this is the Massachusetts overall average. And then similarly for New Hampshire. And now you can bring it to the right. Again, we didn't want the detail. We don't want to know what the individual salaries of workers are or the individual salaries of supervisors. So you can toggle the view level to get to the right level of detail. So now this is better. So now we see here that, well, okay, the Massachusetts grand average is this, but the supervisors average is 105. The worker average in Massachusetts is that. Then the New Hampshire average, again, supervisors is this, workers is that, and the Rhode Island average similarly. And here again, you can do we want to get rid of the hidden rows. The first thing we'll do is replace the replace the formulas by the numbers. Okay, now we can get to the hidden rows as well. Okay, so, and of course, typically you don't like to see decimal points with salaries. So here you can also bring the so that simply brought the values to integer numbers. But you can also remove the grand average since they didn't really ask for it, or you can leave it there. It doesn't really make too much difference. But if you want, you can remove that grand average, and so this is what we see. Massachusetts, broken down by supervisor worker, New Hampshire, supervisor worker, and Rhode Island, supervisor worker. Okay, so that's our question 6. We're now going to tackle problem 7. So they're asking here, get the name, department, salary, date joined of the people who are early joiners of the marketing department or low earners in the accounting department. And they're defining what an early joiner is. It's somebody who joined in 2000 or earlier, and a low earner is somebody who makes less than $75,000. So this kind of a problem is more complicated than what we have seen earlier in terms of the filtering that is needed here. You know, we're looking for 2 different groups of people. One group of people we're looking at is these early joiners in marketing. But then we're also looking at a second group of people that we want in the result set, and that's the lower income people in the Department of Accounting. So to do this type of problem, we actually have to use the advanced filter capability, and we'll see how that is done. So let's make a copy. Let's make a copy of the data set. So copy and create a copy. And this is our question 7. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, whenever you have a question where they're asking for 2 different groups of people, one is the folks in marketing or early joiners, then what we do is, and then you have the second group, which is low earners in accounting. So in this kind of a case, you can't simply use the basic filter here. You note you also have another feature, advanced filter. So this is the icon for the advanced filter. So we have to use the advanced filter. Now, how the advanced filter is used is we actually have to create ourselves a little space where we type in the conditions. So this is before we call the advanced filter, we actually have to define what the conditions are. Now we have conditions on 3 fields. We have conditions on department, on date joined, and also salary. Here, before you can use the GUI tool, the graphical user interface tool, you first have to set this up. This is the criteria range, as they call it, where we are defining the conditions. So for the first group of people, the department should be marketing. The department should be marketing. And their date joined, since we're looking for people who joined early, so the department is marketing. And the date joined, the date joined is early joiners, and anybody who joined in 2000 or earlier, in the year 2000 or earlier, which means that the date joined is simply less than 1/1/2001. If it's less than the first day of 2001, then it's then we are indeed looking for the people who joined in the year 2000 or earlier. So this is the first group of people that we want in the results set. Now we also want another group of people, and the second group of people would then be in the second row. If we had defined another third group of people that we want to see in the results set, that would be in the third row. Well, in this case, we just have two groups of people. With the first row we've handled, that's for the people in marketing. The second group of people are people in accounting and their salaries. So we want to look at people making less than 75,000. So their salary should then be set to less than 75,000. This is how you specify the conditions. So you've got to create a range of your own. Here you're going to type all this in, and we have conditions on department, date, join, and salary in this case. We have one group of people that's defined by the condition that they have to be in marketing and their date join should be in 2000 or earlier, which means it would be less than 1/1/2001. The second group of people, now they go into the second row. Their department is accounting and they should be low earners, so less than 75,000. Okay, now let's call. So now click somewhere in the table. Just bring your cursor and click somewhere there. And now we're going to call the advanced filter. So note, the advanced filter has two fields where we have to put in the values. The first is the list range. What this means is the data set. So the list range simply corresponds to the full data. And as you see, this list range has already been properly selected because you see this rectangle with the green boundaries, and that is indicating that the list range has already been properly selected. Then the criteria range is this thing. The criteria range is this set of cells that we just typed in. That's the criteria range. And these are the two inputs that we have to give to the advanced filter. Very different from how we were doing the simple filtering before, where we had clicked on filter and then we saw these drop down arrows and then we could select the proper values. But here, this is a more complicated filter. We have these two different groups we want to select, and that's why we have to use this advanced filter. Then you click OK, and then this it basically comes back with, you see here the marketing people that it has, the two people in marketing whose date join. As you can see here, the date join is indeed 2000 or earlier, and then it has one worker in accounting. The condition for the accounting person was not something on date join. It was a condition on salary. They have to be low earners in accounting, and indeed you see that is the case. So Liz Strong earns only 32,000, so she's a low earner in the accounting department. And now we can do some final pruning of the results. Certainly, you don't want to keep the hidden rows around, so simply click Info, inspect the document. Don't save anything right now. Inspect this and remove the hidden rows. And that's it. Now, now we have removed the unwanted rows, also remove the unwanted columns. So here you can look at what are they asking for. Name, department, salary, date joined. They're not asking for anything else. So get rid of SSN, they don't want to see it. Name, and name, department, salary, date joined. They're not asking for address either. So you can get rid of the address column. And they're also not asking for whether it's a supervisor or not, so you can remove that column as well. And this is really the final result. Okay, the next four, actually the next 5 questions are from a different data set, the course registration data set, which has more tables. It has actually 4 tables. So I'm going to stop the recording for this now, and I'll start the recording for the remaining questions, which will use, like I said, the course registration database. And I'll explain what the tables there are. Okay, so like I said, you'll see the questions and assignment in the lab assignment will be very similar to these questions. Okay, so let me stop the recording.